Hey guys, this is Eric with Eric and Nikki, and today I'm going to show you how to buy millions and millions of dollars worth of apartment complexes with zero of your own money. As always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and tell your friends. Today I'm going to show you about apartment syndication. What is syndication? How do you do it? How do you keep yourself safe? And can you do it in other facets of real estate? Let's start off with number one. What in the heck is syndication? Syndication is where you're giving something for a partial interest in another item. If you give 50 grand to be a part of a deal for equity, you're given a piece to be syndicated into the deal. Just basically means, for all layman's terms, it's getting a bunch of people together to be able to buy a piece of property or something else that you want to do, whether that be a business or anything like that. Let's dive into syndication itself. So syndication is done because of the SEC. The SEC says that you cannot sell securities without a securities license. But a Regulation D allows for a 506B or a 506C syndication, and that's Regulation D. There's also Regulation A, which is for non-accredited investors and bigger things like that. A Regulation A fund is actually what Grant Cardone did. I can go into that a little bit later, but for our intents and purposes, most of the time, people stick to a 506C or a 506B. Now, this is a lot of information, so bear with me here while I go through everything. The SEC allows these syndications to be done without having a securities license, as long as there is, in a 506C, an accredited investor, or in a 506B, you can have up to 30 sophisticated investors and the rest accredited. What is an accredited investor? An accredited investor is an individual with at least $1 million in net worth and $250,000 a year in income with one individual, or $350,000 married. Let's start with a 506C. So a 506C, if you wanted to do that, you could do a syndication with accredited investors only, and you could advertise for it. You could put it on social media, you could put it on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you wanted. You could create a website and advertise, but you would only be allowed to accept accredited investors, and they would have to prove their accreditation. A 506B, as in boy, you can have up to 30 non-accredited investors or sophisticated investors, which just really means they've done deals with you. The biggest thing with the B is they have to have known you before the deal. You cannot advertise, you can't put it on social media, you can't do anything like that. Very, very illegal to do things of that. So if you see somebody advertising for a deal, it's most likely a 506C syndication that they're doing. So let me walk you through how this looks. You've got your apartment, and that's my little apartment doors. I'm not a great artist. So you've got your apartment, and let's say that that apartment is $2 million. You've followed me, you know how I get my deals. You've went out there, networked, talked to brokers, did some marketing, and you found this great deal. Let's call it 50 units for $2 million. With that $2 million, most of the time, banks are gonna require between 25 and 30% down. Now, when you're going to get this funding, the bank is going to require that 25 to 30% down at purchase. Of $2 million, 25% is 500 grand. Now, if you were like me when I first got started, I didn't have $500,000 just sitting around. So I couldn't do the 500,000 down. But what I could do is I had a good net worth. Most of the time with a bank, they're gonna go, so now we're 500 down, and then let's say our loan amount is 1.5 million. The bank, most of the time, requires the general partners, which we'll get into what exactly that is, to have at least the loan amount in net worth. So they want you to have at least a $1.5 million net worth. Now, I did have that in my first deal. If you don't have that in your first deal, don't worry, I'm gonna show you what to do instead. You can do a 506B syndication to raise the 500 to put down on the loan, and many banks do it this way with bigger deals, and you can get help with the net worth requirements. So let me show you how this works. So in a 506B, you have two parts. You have your GP and your LP. Your GP, or your general partnership, runs the deal. They are who are going to sign on the debt. If it is a recourse loan, which means you personally guarantee it, they're going to personally guarantee that debt. Non-recourse, of course, means it's just on the deal, but they are going to have all the say in the deal. So what the rents go up to, what the construction budget is, everything like that. Your LP, or your limited partner, is going to be just the money. So they're going to be the 500. So if you think about it this way, this is going to be your 500 and this is going to be your 1.5 million. I'm doing a deal very similar to this right now, okay? So the general partnership, we've got 3 partners. So there's 3 people. The LP, we raised this with 17 people. The 3 people were myself, the person who brought the deal to the table, and then what I call a guarantor. That guarantor is somebody who has a large net worth. They understand syndication. They've been in multiple apartment deals, whatever it is, but you're gonna bring them on to personally guarantee the 1.5. And you're gonna have to give up quite a bit of the deal to do that. For instance, in my deal, I'm giving up 50% of the general partnership. So the split is what's most important in the deal. We are doing a 40% equity ownership to the GP and a 60% ownership to the LP. What does that mean? That means of the $2 million that is cost to do this deal, the limited partners would own 60%. So if we went up to 3 million, all right, so we grew the rents, we grew the NOI, which you can find in another video, I talk about that. You grow that deal and it goes up to $3 million. The GP owns 60% of the 3 million, or 1.8 million of that deal. They have equity stake in that deal. Why is it important that they have equity stake? They have equity stake so that they can get cash flow and they can get depreciation. So they're gonna get a good income off their taxes. Somebody that would be an LP is going to be maybe a W-2 individual, somebody that doesn't really want to be involved in the general partnership. There's a lot of people in this space that talk about how they own thousands and thousands of apartments, and that's on the LP side. I don't own any of my apartments on the LP side. I don't think there's anything wrong with the LP side. It just does not fit my personality. So when I talk about I own 200 doors, I own 200 doors as the general partner. I am on the debt, I own the apartment, and I have a say in the deal, which is what I like. Control freak, maybe. They own 1.2. If we were to increase, then they would get that increase as part of their 60%. And of course, as they go, they're gonna get cash flow or a preferred return, which we can go into that as well. But a preferred return, you can't guarantee anything, but you're gonna say within reason, we're gonna be able to return at least X percent. We normally do a 6 to 8% preferred return. Now, the 40% is owned by the GP. But remember I told you that there's 3 general partners. So they would own that 40%, however it's split up. So you end up actually owning like, let's call it like 10 to 17% of a $2 million deal. Which for me, when I don't have any money in the deal, is pretty awesome. The general partners, LP, so now you go out, you raise your money, you raise your $500,000, and you do what's called a private placement memorandum, or a PPM. That tells you all the ways that you can lose that investor's money. And it's very descriptive. It's required by the SEC, and it's required for them to sign. Once they do that, they'll put their money into the deal, and you'll go and get the bank and close the deal. With all this being said, you as the general partner, you bring the LP in, You bring your guarantor in. You're in this deal for zero of your own money. And this process is very repeatable. Just remove this apartment and do a commercial building. Remove this apartment and do a Airbnb. Remove this apartment and do really any facet of real estate where you're bringing people together that you can pay a steady return. It's really beneficial. It's the way that I fund most of my larger deals. And the bigger thing with this type of syndication is these limited partners, I'm always looking for those guys because these are the guys that are the lifeblood of your syndication business. The chicken and the egg, right? What's better, to have the deal or to have the money? I think making sure that you have a good ability to find deals is great, but I think finding these guys that know, like, and trust you, you've met with and talked to, is even more important. I hope this gives you a really good idea of what syndication is, how it can be done. This is a very general overview. This is just my opinion. Do not take this as fact. Make sure if you're gonna do this, you go look all this up and do the research for yourself. As always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, tell your friends.